of our resident SCG champion, Vincenzo Balistreri, playing Hammertime versus, I would say, our resident Lotus control player, Joseph. And yeah, should be a fun matchup. You have thoughts and feelings on this, Ian?
Yeah, I mean, I think Vinny. I guess I actually haven't seen this matchup played, but I would expect Vinny to be advantaged, especially if Vinny's playing a version of Hammer Time with a bunch of copies or multiple copies of Blacksmith skill. I think being able to blank Joseph's early plays quickly leads to this deck just spiraling out of control and winning.
Yeah, so I think Fury is very good in the matchup. Also, Bloodsun, pretty decent, is going to shut down the Sagas and the Ink Moth. I can see it going either way. There's the lack of sweepers. I'm not sure how many, if any, verdicts Lotus Control plays, but it's more wanting to deal with the early threats and then start going over the top with like Cryptics and Planeswalkers. Hammer Time is one of the decks that can get under a lot of decks. Most decks, it's like probably like very similar to like the Infect right now of what used to be like classic modern deck. So I think Vinny has an advantage, but it's not a foregone conclusion. There's still a lot of play on both sides.
So Vinny has to decide here, do we play Sigarda's Aid or do we toss out the Giver runes? Playing the Giver plays really poorly into a turn 1 Fury from Joseph, but I mean, what are you really doing with the Giver if you're not tossing it out turn 1? So Vinny does decide we're just going to go for it, and I imagine just clenching and hoping that Joseph does not have the Fury, but we'll be disappointed to know that Joseph does in fact have the Fury.
And Joseph, maybe considering, are we gonna get? There's no reason not to do it right now.
No. I think now that you're, it's very clear you're on Hammer Time. If Joseph's made it to 2-0 here, you've got to be aware that like this does not get better for you, especially if you let that Giver untap without summoning sickness. Like your Fury's gonna be severely neutered at that point. Although Vinny still, I mean, has the cards that are needed. With a Stoneforge Mystic into Sigarda's Aid. So Stoneforge Mystic, I imagine we see this get Hammer, although maybe SoFi?
So yeah, now that Luris isn't in the deck anymore, there's different options for equipment. We see Nettlesis getting pulled to the front, which...
Reality Chip is another great option here. I kind of like Reality Chip, although... it can definitely be a little bit awkward. Joseph does have the Solitude in hand as an answer, but Reality Chip can get re-equipped to kind of another cheap creature. So Vinny deciding, do we want to... Seeing the Bloodsun pitched, I think, like, both players are aware of what's going on here.
I think I'm into either Chip or Sentinel, but not Hammer, because both are going to... Even if you have your opponent use removal on something you're trying to equip with that your equipment, and removal succeeds, and both of Nettlecyst or Reality Chip are going to have like benefits after that happens, but the hammer is sort of like a one and done unless you have a pure Steel Paladin out.
I'm probably more scared of the college than I am.
Yeah, it's tough because like if you're Vinny, you don't want this game to go late. So and I mean Vinny can go for lethal next turn. Hammer equipped onto this Ink Moth Nexus is just straight up lethal. So I like after Joseph pitches the Fury, Vinny's just probably going to say next turn, do you have the Solitude plus white card? And if you don't, it's game over. And Vinny will find out that Joseph does in fact have the Solitude plus white card, but I still kind of like making Joseph have it.
Let's cast Memnite.
Memnite onto the battlefield. Activate Ink Moth Nexus.
Let's not forget that you also have a recommend treasure.
And get in. And again, if I'm Joseph, I'm just like, okay, all right.
I have some treasure tokens.
And it looks like Vinny's willing to just hit Joseph for a single poison.
I have 2 here, so go ahead and use 1.
Which, look at
Nah,
that.
I got plenty of treasure.
Who's got poison counters? We got poison counters.
Wow, production value, insane.
Prismatic ending targeting the dragon's ship.
Love it. That's, you got the Phyrexian symbol.
I haven't needed these since Infect stopped being playable in Modern, which, boy, has it been a while.
With that, I'm going to pass turn to you.
Okay, that's activating classes.
I'm wondering how long we're gonna do this, like, you know, just swing, not cast the hammer. Maybe we're waiting for a second hammer? Or another equipment?
I don't know. I mean, Vinny knows this deck better than I would. I 100% would have just gone for it and hoped that Joseph didn't have the answer, but I don't know. Vinny's decided that he thinks he can play this a little slower.
It's gonna get awkward once Joseph gets to 5 mana, because then you're gonna be able to cast Solitude and then also pitch cast a second Solitude.
So Joseph's got the Verdict here. So we're going to see Verdict, which is going to clear everything off. And then Vinny's going to have to make the decision, then do we go for it? But, you know, I feel like Vinny must read Solitude here, because why would Joseph tap out if knowing that Vinny has a hammer in hand, if Solitude wasn't in hand? So I feel like Vinny's got to know that Joseph has the Solitude, but also Vinny's hand is so bad that you might just have to put Joseph to the test.
Do the combat.
Yep, you're down 15.
Before damage, try to flash it damage.
Yeah, I don't think Vinny's got another option. A second copy of Sigarda's Aid in hand is really rough on Vinny's side, and I think you have to just hope that you're calling Joseph's bluff here. You're still getting a 2-for-1.
Not really, because, like, hammer isn't doing anything right now.
Yeah, but, well, sure. But technically you are. And, I mean, what else are you doing? Like, if you let Joseph play the next land, it's even worse for you.
Yeah, but, like, if that's your play, why not do it earlier when the likelihood of Joseph having, like, Solitude plus white card is...
Yeah, I don't... We'd have to ask Vinny. I don't know why Vinny didn't go for it earlier, but we didn't, so... and Vinny's willing to play the Ornithopter out here. Kind of interesting. Vinny's probably really hoping to draw a Pure Steel Paladin here. I almost would have wanted to keep the Ornithopter in hand just to not give a target for a removal spell for Joseph. So that if I played Pure Steel... Well, I guess either way you're probably going to have the Ornithopter hit the battlefield. I don't know. So this is a tough spot. You know, once you've kind of expended your resources on the hammer deck, now that there's no Luris to re-up and have a second wave, you're kind of out of it.
Yeah, which is why, I mean, I think that's, like, Luris was so strong in this deck because you could sort of spam everything, and then your opponent is forced to use, like, lots of removal, as we've seen Joseph, like, 2-for-1 themselves a couple times, and then if you just put Luris back in your hand.
Wow. Vinny hits the Pure Steel. Okay, so I think here's the real question about the crux of this match, Travis, is Vinny had the opportunity to select the hammer or to select a reality chip. It felt to me like the selection of hammer would indicate that Vinny would want to go for it, like the turn afterwards.
I agree.
Whereas the selection of reality chip plays better into the plan that Vinny actually ended up actualizing, which was to kind of play a slower game.
Yep. Either that or Nettlesys is similar to reality chip in that way of, like, sure, you can remove the token, but then you equip the assist, and every creature then becomes a threat. And Joseph just put Kahira into hand. We've got Solitude, we've got Kahira, we have a Blood Sun out. Feels pretty done to me at this point. No reason for Vinny to concede. He's a faster deck.
Grim Flare. And he is online. So he has a 4/4 turn. 4/4 turn.
Yep. Cast Kahira.
Kahira onto the battlefield. Joseph sitting on it looks like Flagstone, Solitude, and something else.
Again, 3 cards.
Vinny's anti-flood mechanic in the silent clearing, not doing a ton under the Blood Sun. Wow. Joseph with it. This is a big show of strength, just tossing the Solitude out onto the battlefield. It does have a target, so it is going to be able to hit that Ornithopter. Vinny with a reality chip in hand, which has flash due to the Sigarda's aid. Thinking, do we put it on? Okay, so Vinny's going to flash in the chip. It'll be able to equip to the Ornithopter, and Vinny's going to maybe hope to spike a... but we can't... Yes, we can spike a Blacksmith skill here, and that we could cast with the Springleaf Drum, but it looks like that's not what was on top of the library. That may have been Vinny's kind of last ditch effort. If that had worked, Vinny could have been off to the races.
Swing at you for 7.
Okay. When he dies on
Is it 3-2?
basic.
Yeah, 3-2, and this gets +1/+1.
I'll now build attack.
On 10.
I'm gonna block the Kahira, take 4. Joseph's gonna gain 4.
And chat asking if it's legal to have a companion in a different sleeve. Yeah, but you can't, like, then if you're going to shuffle it back into your library, you're going to have to, like, re-sleeve it, and you got to make sure you're not, like, slow playing. So it's pretty common practice for folks to do that. But you can't then, in game 2, if it's, like, in your library in a different sleeve, that can be a marked card penalty. So you got to be really careful how you play.
Let's attempt to reconfigure onto
Vinny's gonna play the Ornithopter, go for equip. Joseph's got the fire in response, take out the Ornithopter. Vinny's still sitting on the Naked Reality chip. Can take a look at the top card of the library at any time.
Know when you should concede.
I mean, it looks like Joseph doesn't have a ton going on in hand, but we are going to be able to Valakut Awakening away at least one card here.
I have Planeswalker.
So 1 at the bottom, 2 off the top. We hit Teferi. There's Teferi, Solitude, and a Ragran Triumph in hand. Can't imagine we don't see the Teferi cast here.
You got it.
As at the end of the day, it ends up costing a single mana when you untap the Lotus Field plus another land. Seems worth.
Let's go to combat. Same.
Tap for
26.
I mean, I think at this point, Vinny's just hoping that we can figure out some way to get free creature into play, equip the chip, and then just go ham, and that ham has to be like a really finely aged ham.
play a Prismatic Vista as land for turn, trigger on that to gain 4 life.
It's great, Travis.
And I'm also going to fetch, dropping to 22.
Question.
Memory Deluge. You gotta feel like this is academic at this point.
Let's try cast.
Find a basic
Joseph's gonna clear the reality chip. If you're Vinny, I mean, you could stick around
Yeah, target.
for a minute longer, but Joseph's got this thing in the bag.
Cast analysis.
Although, a solid couple draws off the top, Vinny, between the reality chip and Nettle Cyst, you know, that's actually pretty solid. Joseph again has the answer in another copy of Solitude, but
I'm gonna stack the trigger.
Vinny's draws have not been bad given the situation.
I'm gonna let my living weapon trigger resolve first.
So now we have just the reality.
And now I have 2 Sigarda's Aids triggers.
Oh, yeah.
So the first Sigarda's Aids trigger is going to.
So Vinny's gonna
target
go for the
reality chip.
equip onto the reality
second
chip
one is
to
gonna
save
target
it from the Fury here.
putting him to 2 loyalty to exile target.
So this works how? So you're
So right now there's equip to reality chip on the stack.
there's equip.
Right, so the Sigarda's Aid, when an equipment enters the battlefield under your control, you can
Right.
attach it to target creature you control.
Yep.
We're verbalizing
so
what
You're trying
the
to
stack
equip
looks
the
like right
Nettle
now.
Cyst to the reality chip.
So we're
The
doing
other one
equip
is
Nettle
the
Cyst to reality chip, and then equip Nettle Cyst
Nope,
to
the other one
Germ.
is the Nettle Cyst to the Germ.
Oh, okay.
Have to swing. Tibble. Yep.
So one going this way and one going there.
Right.
Oh, that's really interesting. So, but so the Nettle Cyst is equipped to the Germ initially when it ETBs, So if the reality chip becomes an invalid target, then it just stays equipped to the germ. Is that correct?
Yeah, we should say.
Okay.
Sorry, that was too
Doesn't
tricky
matter.
for me to really try to work out.
Had
I
it.
mean, exile it is a good answer.
Did never not have
I
it.
was like, this seems.
Yeah, Joseph had the ideal hand against Hammer that game, and we also saw that Vinny didn't decide to make Joseph have it on any turn other than the first turn with playing the giver into the ornithopter.
Yeah, it's an interesting pivot of like make them have it and then like play patient and conservatively. And I'm very curious what the thought process was with that.
Those 3 will go to
And
hand, and then the other 7
going to sideboard here.
Vinny's deciding whether they want to bring in the Lavinias. I am a little surprised that those are not coming in, given that I feel like this is a matchup for them.
I saw 2 Teferis. Was that 2 Teferis, 2
Spell
Spell
Pierce,
Pierces?
and I'm forgetting what the last card was. But it is,
Is it a Dovin's Vita?
I don't think so.
Definitely 2 Teferis and 2 Spell Pierces. I feel like this is a play draw dependent like sideboard decision if you're on Hammer. For Joseph, we're gonna probably see wear tears. Usually there's like 2 to 4 on the sideboard. Those are gonna come in. What do we got? We're taking out a Cryptic, 2 Memory Deluges, some Planeswalkers. We're taking out 3 Cryptics, 2 Deluges. What are we bringing in? Can we get back on to Joseph here? Can we shoot over to Joseph's hand cam? Nope. Yeah, already in the deck. We'll find out, I guess, when they draw them. The 2 Spell Pierces, 2 Mana Leaks, and 2
No. Yeah, they
Fairies
can reset.
for Vinny.
This is good. I need a lot more practice in this matchup. This is good.
So Mana Leak was the mystery card that we were looking at.
Very
Makes
prevalent
sense. I mean,
online, but not as prevalent.
Mana Leak's a little
Yeah, not a lot
tough,
of people
tough
play it.
tempo-wise. I mean, having to pay 2 mana and also be aggressive seems a little bit difficult. Spell Pierce
There's
also.
been a lot of Tron here recently.
Okay, Vinny decides to put a Pithing Needle in there, which is
There's always
also
like 3 players
interesting.
in Guardian.
Yeah. I went through like a 6-week
This is
period where I was
almost
playing
signaling like Vinny feels like we can
one
play a
day on
later
Friday, just
game
one Tron player.
against this deck. Which is another thing. I think if you're expecting that the game's going to end early, I think Lavinia is the right card to bring in.
This deck does not fit in this draft.
And if you are feeling like you can play a little bit of a longer game, like a positioning game, then I understand Vinny's sideboard decisions with Mana Leak and Teferi. This kind of indicates, in my opinion, maybe a bit of a slower game plan.
would like to be able to play. You got it. Let's get some good 7s this time.
And we've not seen any copies of Blacksmith Skill, so that'll also be interesting. Is Vinny playing any copies of Blacksmith Skill? Even when Luris was in the format, Vinny was more of a fan of playing a bit of a slower version of Hammertime. So maybe more used to kind of like leveraging player skill in a longer game.
I'm gonna try it. Well, I am taking my mulligan to 6. I think 1 land is far. I kept a 1-lander last time, but it had a Utopia Sprawl and Ren at 6. This one had neither of those. So I think it is probably the smart move to go to 6.
Yeah, I'll keep.
Me too.
All right. Come on.
Shot. 18, take 2 damage.
Oh,
You don't
my
need-
bad. Sorry.
Let's play
I
Spring
just wanted to
Jam,
go along with you. and make sure-
Ornithopter,
Let's push.
and I will pass you.
All right, Vinny's gonna open on Ornithopter, Springleaf Drum, Urza's Saga, Ornithopter, and a Pure Steel Paladin in hand.
I couldn't tell if that was a Cigar to Zeta or Paladin.
Let's play Resistance.
One more card here.
Yeah, you're right, it's a Paladin.
Cast a Stoneforge Mystic.
So Mystic's gonna, I assume, get a
Resolving?
hammer. Yes, and again, there's another line, right? This opens us up to getting blown out by Fury. Although Vinny's hand is somewhat insulated. Oh wow, plays the other Ornithopter. I almost liked holding that other Ornithopter to try and bait the Fury, and then the next turn you're going to be able to get the 3 artifacts and equip. But I guess Vinny's feeling like even if Fury comes down, it can only remove 2 of these creatures, and maybe we'll be able to get in there and deal some damage with the hammer with the creature that's unaffected by Summoning Sickness next turn.
Alright, so Joseph is going to wear the Saga, which, okay, this is a mistake, because this is
I had
like
the extra mana to cast
something that's not super obvious, but when Saga comes into play, you have a moment to use an enchantment removal spell before it gets the counter on it, so that you're not going to be able to tap Saga for mana, and you can remove it. So if Joseph was going to remove the Saga with the wear part of Wear Tear, the point to do it would have been when the trigger goes on the stack
Monkey Exiles.
to
Supreme
put a counter on it.
Alright.
My head got there at the same time.
Silent.
And we do get a Fury to clear up 1 Ornithopter and Stoneforge.
Tap.
So Vinny's got to decide here. Vinny does have the opportunity, right? We can leverage the Pure Steel Paladin here, play the Paladin into the Hammer, which is going to draw a card from the Paladin and be able to be equipped. So Vinny's got to decide, do we equip to the Paladin or do we equip to the Ornithopter? Ornithopter is, of course, weak to Wear Tear, but the Paladin is putting a lot of eggs in one basket.
I do kind of like equipping to the Paladin, because you've already seen Wear Tear, and if you know the Lotus Field deck, you know they're on like 3 or 4 of those.
2 cards.
And you've got to have a sinking feeling if you're on Vinny's side and your opponent says, wait a minute, when you say equipping to Pure Steel Paladin, and this is where you find out that your opponent does in fact have a Solitude.
Oh, well, okay, you've already gotten Joseph with, Joseph used a Fury, now we're using a Solitude, so, we're going through cards in hand, and Joseph still only has a single white mana on the battlefield.
Yeah.
My bad.
Single.
Have a go.
You're 19.
19. Yep. Yeah, 19, 20.
Do have a second Wear Tear in Joseph's hand, and we're going to be able to cast that
Alright.
if we want to. We're going just for Chalice of 1.
I'm gonna pass turn. I did not draw my 3rd land.
I like this. I think given you've hemorrhaged some resources on Joseph's side, you're really hoping to fuse the Wear Tear. Vinny does have the Reality Chip available here, and is also able to hold up Spell Pierce. But it looks like the holdings might be, I can't tell if it's Memnite or Cauldron Complete on Vinny's side. It looks like a Cauldron Complete and
does
a
look
Spell
like a
Pierce.
Cauldron.
Cauldron and a Spell Pierce. On Joseph's side, ooh, we're sitting up straighter.
Fairy Time Rattler.
It's like a Cryptic Command, a Wear Tear, and something else on Joseph's side.
If this Cauldron ever comes down, that is going to be a problem.
Let's take 1 and reconfigure onto Ornithopter.
Sure.
All right, we're getting a reconfigure going. And we're going to tear something, which I would probably bet the tear is for Reality Chip.
Mm-hmm.
This is not going great for me because I desperately need my third.
So folks that just joined us on chat, Jeskai Lotus Control is in fact playing Cryptic Command. They're playing 4 of them because the whole idea is to get a Blood Sun out, play your Lotus fields without the downside of stacking 2 lands, and then play a bunch of Cryptics and Memory Deluges and Planeswalkers. Alright, we've got a bunch of uncastables in Vinny's hand right now. Oh man, this is a tough one. That Chalice is actually pretty decent, and I think Joseph is going to eventually be able to draw lands. And once we get to 4 lands, the hand in most top decks are going to be unlocked.
Although, of note, Joseph's severely lacking in blue mana at the moment. So a lot of cards,
Whoa.
Cryptic included, are uncastable. Vinny does rip the Teferi Time Raveler, which would do a lot to unlock the hand. Unfortunately, if Teferi comes down and bounces the Chalice, we do not have the mana to cast Spell Pierce available to keep the Chalice from coming back down next turn.
I think just to plus on Teferi this turn, with the next turn being able to minus, and then you'll have, you know, your Spell Pierce open, etc. And Joseph, if you plus Teferi, Joseph is not going to be able to remove it, even with a Fury.
Agreed. Yeah, I do think that is the line here. Looks like Joseph's contemplating. I want to say it's a Fire Ice is the other card in hand.
And single.
Okay, we do get 4th land, only 2nd blue, but we're going to be able to Verdict next turn. It looks like we have a 2nd Chalice.
Alright, let's get
try and
good opening
Interesting.
7.
We're going to see Fire Ice cast. What was the verbalized mode here, Travis? Fire, looks like.
and then it's going to be on me.
Okay.
That worked out that's sort of like best possible for Vinny right there.
Oh, and Vinny does rip a land off the top. That's kind of huge. The play that Joseph made seemed very good if Vinny did not hit another land, as the original Saga would not have been able to get some constructs into play. And but as it stands, Vinny's going to be able to really leverage their resources well. This is a moment where you could consider bouncing the Chalice, but I think probably still best to wait until you know you're going to be able to get some use out of this Spell Pierce.
Well, so you could bounce Chalice, then if Joseph goes to replay it, you're able to make a construct, use Springleaf Drum to then Spell Pierce Chalice, and then that would make Joseph tap out.
Yeah, I'm kind of medium on that, but I guess Vinny feels like that's going to be worth it anyway.
I mean, I would have liked doing that. Would have held up making the construct until you want to use the mana with the Springleaf Drum or the end of Joseph's next turn. So it's we're being a bit nitpicky here, but like this is every decision that is made in this board state is going to matter so much for winning this game.
Yeah, there's just a lot of pressure on Vinny to really maximize this early game, because once the Lotus Field deck pulls ahead, it's curtains.
Oh my gosh. Joseph has 3 Chalices in hand.
And a Supreme Verdict.
And a Verdict.
Do you hold up the Verdict for longer here is kind of the question. I kind of think you need to hold up the Verdict for another turn. I think if I'm on Joseph's side, I get a little greedy here. I play the Chalice out again, pay for the Esper Sentinel, hold up the Cryptic Command for another turn. It just feels like with Vinny's cards in hand and the 2 Sagas on board, you gotta be patient. And it looks like Joseph agrees.
We're going to replay the Chalice.
So we're gonna see Chalice redeployed.
That was a bit sneaky. Joseph is like, we're gonna replay the Chalice. Like, I don't have 2 more in my hand. I like it. Alright, Mana Leak drawn. We're gonna uptick these Sagas. Do we want to... We don't have another land in hand, so we have the choice of making another token or just floating mana.
Good to fetch. Yep.
A float of mana. Options include Ornithopter, Shadow Spear, the Needles in Hand,
Pretty easy thoughts. So
I feel like you want to
Springleaf Drum.
get one of your 1 mana equipments because you're not going to be able to cast those.
Alright, and you're down to 15.
I kind of like getting another Springleaf Drum here.
I'm fine with drum too, but I could see Shadow Spear or drum being
1,
good.
2 to equip. And combat.
Let's not forget to uptick our Teferi.
3, 4.
Yeah, this is interesting. So Vinny's choice to equip the Shadow Spear here does get in for additional damage, but it's going to keep us from activating this Urza Saga that we could have held up to make another construct. If I'm on Joseph's side, I mean, I'm pretty stoked to cast my Supreme Verdict. I think Vinny's obviously thinking, oh, we're going to hold up Mana Leak for whatever Joseph's play is, but Supreme Verdict doesn't care about the Mana Leak. And in my opinion, now's the time to go for the Verdict.
I think you have to go for the verdict. It is going to enable Vinny to balance the chalice and play 1-drops from hand, which is not going to be great, but we're going to be able to empty a fair amount of things. And I think unless Vinny draws a land, he's stuck on 1 land. It's another Mana Leak. Alright, we get a second land. Floating a mana. I feel like now you get the Ornithopter.
Agreed.
Discard this Gauntlet Shrine and lose 3.
Ornithopter does come down, which is going to enable this Springleaf Drum. Just going to give Vinny 3 mana for the turn.
Got 1 floating.
We are eschewing the ability to make another construct, so Vinny's kind of all dressed up with nowhere to go.
Plus the Teferi.
I mean, this is a tough spot to be. With the Hammer deck, you never want to be in a spot where you have like a grip of cards in hand and no way to close out the game. I think this was maybe my concern with the way that Vinny sideboarded this game, is you don't want to be like chipping in for 1 damage with an Ornithopter. It might work this game given how many cards Vinny has in hand.
I feel like you have to Mana Leak this because if Joseph is a, it's a cantrip for Joseph, and then if you get a Lotus field, it sort of lights out. Your Mana Leaks don't matter at that point.
Yeah, I'm Mana Leaking everything available here for sure. And then if I'm Joseph here, my follow-up is just to cast another Chalice.
You're gonna tap for blue and black through Abundant Growth.
Can't play any instant.
Yeah, I know. I'm deciding whether to go to the second.
Interesting. Joseph picks him up. I would have played that out if I was on Joseph's side.
And yeah, you had a couple turns to draw another verdict.
That is important.
I mean, you had.
I mean, the only
to
threat
bear-
that Vinny had was an Ornithopter with a Shadow Sphere on it.
Granted, it was big, but it wasn't, 1 swing dead. So
It's a 1/2.
we had, let's see, we had Ornithopter, we had Shadow Spear, we had Springleaf Drum.
Shadow Sphere.
Yeah,
It gives it +1/+1 and lifelink.
yeah,
Yeah, and it's a fairy.
yeah.
There's like the pressure on you is minimal at that point.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe Joseph was thinking that there's 16 minutes left in the game. They are
Okay.
stuck on a hand with like 2 chalices. It's hard for them to close out.
Okay, I think that's reasonable. Get the play with 16 minutes left. That makes some sense to me.
Gonna find this Catria Triumph.
It is a bit surprising. I'm sort of in your boat where I'm trying to rationalize why you concede at that point, but
I mean, Vinny had a lot of cards in hand, so I could see feeling like, oh, Vinny's, like, he's got to have things covered.
but they're all 1 mana spells except for like 1 more mana leak.
Yeah.
When Yorion enters, I'm going to
And
exile this
they're all 1 mana spells, and you have that opportunity where it's free and clear to cast another Chalice on board.
one.
Yep.
From Tumen on.
And you know what? I didn't see It may have been revealed and we just didn't see it, but I did not see Kahira revealed for game 2.
Yeah, that's a good point. I also did not see that.
Play.
I don't know if it's something the players have verbalized. It's a bit like off of the battlefield that we're seeing here, but
Terminate. Yeah.
I'll keep.
all right.
Joseph with the snap keep.
Well, I saw Lotus Field in there, and I saw plenty of mana for early turns. Sentinel's very, that's very decent for Vinny right now.
And you have your turn. You have how many cards in hand? 3. 4.
All right, 2 fast lands, playing an ending, paying the extra.
Going to cast a.
That is exiled, probably not going to matter.
Exile most chosen will be you sacrifice a creature.
Valorous isn't a thing anymore, so it's not coming back.
Gonna go to my turn.
Kind of a slow start for Hammer. Used to seeing them have a fair amount of permanence on the board by turn 2. But we're going for the, hopefully the Stone Forge
Yeah,
lives,
go ahead.
and then
There's
we
a million
get,
things. I have to read it every time I play it.
indestructible Germ Token, can still be exiled with both Ending and Solitude.
Yes. Oh, so many times.
Here you go.
We're in a bit of a content limbo. We've been on a regular schedule for the last couple of weeks. We're kind of undecided about where the future is going to go. So no promises at the moment.
Yeah, we might, for the summer, we might go down to every other week and then pick back up in the winter. It's hard because it's just 2 of us here doing this, and we do the whole setup, the takedown, the commentary and stuff, but we're unsure. It's fun doing it when we're able to do it. So yeah, we super appreciate Matthew for subscribing. Shout out there. And yeah, we're gonna keep bringing content, but we're trying to figure out how exactly that's gonna happen. And the ideal situation would be to rope some more folks that want to do this with us, either production or commentary and things too. So if you're in Portland, you're interested, get in touch and shout out.
Spread the wealth. Joseph's sitting on Blood Sun in hand. If we toss out the Blood Sun, then we're conceding that we're going to take some damage off the Cauldra, but I think that's pretty fine.
Can we see what's in Joseph's hand? I wonder if there's a Solitude there.
Joseph did unfortunately rip another copy of Flagstones of Trocaire off the top with the Blood Sun draw, and with the 1 in play currently is not exactly what you want.
Yeah, that's the Nambo in the deck.
Yes, which is flat, right? X is just the total mana cost.
Vinny's sitting on Needle Stoneforge, Sigarda's Aid, Springleaf Drum, Inkmoth Nexus, and Cauldra
You
complete.
have a lot of cards as well. You're not wrong.
And hit you for 1, down to 9.
Hide in the hand there, Joseph. Show us the wealth.
Here you go.
What are the goods?
Draw.
For those just tuning in, we're hanging out in Portland, Oregon at Guardian Games. We got a great modern scene here happening on Mondays and Fridays. And yeah, we've got 4 rounds of Magic, and we're in the 3rd round right now. So 1 more after this for the finals.
Sigarda's Aid played. Maybe trying to bait out some counter magic here. Okay, Springleaf Drum is going to be the next play. Countering Springleaf Drum would be kind of interesting, probably not worth it, even if there's a Force of Negation. It would prevent Vinny from...
I mean, yeah, you're a blue
Vinny's
deck.
in an awkward... So we're not going to be deploying the Cauldra complete this turn.
We'll name Big Teferi.
So, again, Vinny's really going for this kind of slower game plan.
I have no idea why we didn't, why Caldra didn't come down.
Yeah, nor do I. It feels like if you go for Cauldra complete, you want to take that opportunity to go for the play.
Yeah, that's like, you could have just not played Sigarda's Aid and then done Pithing Needle and get Cauldra. I feel like there's some next level thinking there.
Yeah. Okay.
I think Vinny may have next leveled himself.
Cast Stone Fortress.
I think I don't in case I draw.
All right. So, I mean, we can get another.
Better card in inventory.
We've Cauldron Complete in hand. We can get a hammer or a reality chip.
I was. If you're on the you're playing conservative line, why not get a reality chip right
well,
now?
you don't have. Oh yeah, you don't even. You've got the Springleaf Drum to handle the blue, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you can flash it in too.
With
Yeah, I don't know. I really like getting reality chip here because you flash it in.
this is just such mixed signals for me of aggressive, then play super conservative, and then aggressive, where I'm like, if you pick a lane, I don't know.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time reading it as well.
Only have one. With that, I'm going to pass turn 2. Alright, untap.
Because now Joseph knows the entire contents of Vinny's hand.
Right.
There's no playing around stuff.
Oh, pass turn.
Do we not realize that Caldera has haste? Why are we passing the turn right now?
2 cards in hand.
So Joseph's gonna get to cast a deluge.
This makes absolute no sense to me.
It feels like it does feel like Vinny's conceding the game by doing no. I mean, you cannot go late against this Lotus Field deck. You cannot.
Especially when they have an active Lotus Field out.
Yeah,
This is just
you will get buried. This deck, it is so good at leveraging late game card advantage.
And now we got a Cryptic, we got a Verdict. It's over.
Good games.
And another Lotus
Second
Field.
Lotus Field.
Yeah,
Joseph is rolling in the riches.
We're gonna Cryptic everything. Then Vinny's maybe gonna put in the Caldera. Then we're gonna go bounce a Germ token, and then you lose. And this is 2 turns that we didn't play a Caldera to get to attack.
There's the Verdict. That's gonna sweep everything up.
Boy, am I glad I did not
I
fetch.
also shouldn't we have put Cauldron into play against the Verdict because it's indestructible anyway?
Yeah.
So we would have had an indestructible.
Yeah, Nib top.
Those are all things that are true.
Because it's not like, I mean, the Inkmoth Nexus is turned off by Blood Sun, so that's not doing anything.
Again, we're just Vinny is one of our best friends. Both Ian and I hang out with Vinny all
We
the
love
time.
Vinny.
And so usually we wouldn't be probably this harsh maybe with someone that's not Vinny.
Oh
but-
no! Vinny, that dies. You just played it into a Blood Sun. No, Vinny.
But we're on full amateur hour here.
Oh boy. Yeah, I think Joseph's got. I mean, you know,
I just haven't played it in the last.
far from me to say that we are in garbage time, but you know, might have gotten to garbage time.
The surgical extraction was a really smart thing to bring in.
That's what I was thinking.
Well, what 2 amazing cards are we gonna pick up? We got a Solitude and
Plus, I have Ren and 6 that I'm trying to
March.
Ren and 6 back.
Maybe I
lands.
couldn't quite tell what that
If
was.
you can surgical the right fetch land, and I'm caught in a position where I don't.
Yeah,
have
we're marching.
other lands in my hand, kind of like I did in the first
Getting
game.
the cigar to aid, so no
If you manage to catch
shenanigans
me
will
in a spot like
ensue.
that, then it's just so backbreaking.
We've got an ending. We've got a Solitude. We've got a Cryptic.
Let's end the needle. So you want one more thing here?
Yeah, we got one more.
All right, Vinny's got access to blue mana.
I feel like this is a situation where I'm wondering
So
if
started a YouTube channel
there was
for gathering
an
stuff.
online betting pool or something, and Vinny just
It's
was
definitely
throwing
one
this.
of those where did it all go wrong moments, and you know, admittedly, if Vinny goes back and watches this VOD, there's gonna be quite a few learning moments that will be available.
And you know, this is my ultimate faith in Vinny being a good player and our resident STG champion. Is I'm going to be doing a team trios with Vinny in about a month. I'm definitely taking Modern Table though.
Oh, God, the digs, the digs.
Yep.
Did, Oh my god.
There's
a murder going on right
know,
now.
I just don't. I mean, I concede. Like, maybe I'm weak of mind, and you know, Vinny is very good about like playing to their outs, and I've seen Vinny win on very little resources before, but boy, am I like more into conceding at times. They're giving us a full show, though. Tell you what,
Yeah, we
are gonna hit time here.
Because it's gonna take Jeskai Lotus like another 5 to 6 minutes to actually win this game.
Which I guess, you know, this gives us the answer of who won that control match that was slowing us down early on in the day, right?
No, actually, Lotus was not playing this control match. I went the last round. They went like 6 minutes over, and it was one match. It was a control mirror, like a blue-white control deck versus Yorion control deck, not 4C, but like blue-white as well. So blue-white versus blue-white. And they were in turn 2, and one player was at 23 life, and one player was at 21 life. And they were both in the tank thinking about plays. No relevant permanents were on the board. And then I went up to the table, and I was like, you all realize the entire rest of the room of like 40 people is waiting for you to finish right now?
You said that?
I said
that.
Oh
my gosh, you're so brave.
And they both looked at me and like, oh yeah. Yeah, we're gonna draw. And that is one of the things where I'm like, people do that, where you get like locked in this like, you gotta think it all up. I'm like, can you really win the game right now? No, no one can. Like, recognize that what your decisions, like each 2 or 3 minutes you take, if 40 people are waiting on you, that's 2 or 3 minutes times 40 of people's lives that they're not gonna get back.
Plus,
so.
How many viewers do we have? Plus our 56 viewers.
I know, the
They
math
all
on that
value
is,
their lives.
That's so much life minutes that were taken away.
But look at, they did the right thing. They did the right thing and freed us.
Yeah.
And also, I did want to mention Joseph's bid to concede game 2 to have plenty of time for game 3 looked very smart there. With the match finishing with just a little bit of time left, but definitely gave Joseph enough time to close out that game 3. So
yeah, that was very heads up, like realizing like, yeah, maybe I could win this if all things went my way, but I'm probably not going to, and I have a better chance like being on the play in game 3. So yeah, I think that's a real skill when you're playing a control deck, to recognize like you're not out of the game, but it's about winning the match, not winning a game. So yeah, good call. All right, well, we got 2 minutes left. We're gonna take a little stretcheroo, and we're gonna be back for our final match, match 4 out of 4 here at Guardian Games in Portland, Oregon. We're Portland Paper. It's Modern Mondays. We got one more for you in just a second.